I consider it the Bible of Northern Rhode Island. The publisher of the Valley Breeze is here tonight. He's got some strong things to say about the Paw Sox deal and more. Welcome into My State of Mind. I am Dan York. Thank you so much for tuning in. There's a lot of Paw Sox conversation that continues to go on in our community, and almost daily there's a nuance of a change in the story or an advance to the story, and certainly some of the commentary that Governor Raimondo had here last night has created a little bit of a mindset change. I could even feel it on the phone lines today on WPRO, where I'm on weekdays noon to 3, where you can call live, and people do, and most of you know that. And if you don't, you should. But the notion that the governor says, hey, listen, we're this far apart, gave some people some pause, and perhaps we're starting to see that there's a little bit of a thing going on maybe between the executive and General Assembly, the executive branch and the legislative branch, as it would be, for those of you who know your civics. We'll talk about that with Tom Ward tonight, the publisher of the Valley Breeze, who offered a headline this past week which was jolting. It might be absolutely true, but jolting, so stay tuned for that. All right, let's check into My State of Mind. And by the way, if you missed the governor, if you miss any show, you can see it at foxprovidence.com. We put that up online after the first showing at 7:30 every night. Of course, you can see the show at 11:30 as well. Yeah, Baltimore finally quiets a little bit. It's a strange place right now, no doubt. Back to the Paw Sox conversation, that's what I'm calling this, because there's no plan B, right? We'll see if they're paying any attention to it. And as far as the Paw Sox are concerned, there's one piece of audio I want to play for you that I think shows that they really don't have their complete act together themselves, big time as the players might be. And along the Paw Sox story, there's a new legislative idea that may be right for the moment, but not that good overall, I don't think anyway. Your state of mind is important to us, and I want to hear what you have to say. So let's dig in here, if we can, to the front page of the Baltimore newspapers. It has been compelling, riveting, horrifying in many ways. Yes, an unsettled piece. It has, I actually went to the Baltimore television stations online to watch their coverage over the last couple of nights, because I wanted to get a more local, sensitive, local feel, rather than the embarrassing, salacious and gratuitous and self-promoting network coverage of this, which is crazy, man. You know, people are saying, would you go home? If you go home, maybe everybody go home. Well, we gotta keep the lights on, the cameras on, and make sure people go home. Really, at some juncture, cable news has got to do a little self-policing. But anyway, here's what CBS tells us about what's happening now.
People living in West Baltimore are hoping to move on from Monday's chaos that had erupted into violence and destruction in their neighborhood.
I have no corner stores where I live at now. They raided them, they tore them up, they broke in them. Who's suffering? We are.
Suffering that will take time and a citywide effort to heal, trying to fix the root of the problem.
They're telling us they're doing worse than the police. They're saying the police treat us bad. Yeah, they do. But we treat us bad. We did this. We burned that CVS. The police didn't burn that CVS.
Do something for these kids. Give them a place to go. You shut down all the rec centers. You shut everything, all type of programs for them. So now, after school, they don't have no place to go.
I got to tell you, that lady in that short piece, I think is beginning to talk about it. And I think what's happening in Baltimore is this self-introspective look at things. A little bit of self-actualization about what's real and what's not is important. And maybe this blow-up in Baltimore will start, in addition to the important conversations we have to continue to have about race and police relations and the like, maybe there is a little bit of responsible self-introspection happening even within the urban communities in America. You would hope that's what's happening, that this thing was so over the top that it's creating that. How could it not, is the question, right? But of course, because of all the challenge right now, they're watching crowd control and the like, and the stadium was empty. You've seen this, right? This is like for the first time ever. Camden Yards, a ball game in Camden Yards, and no one came to see it except the people who had the 299 rooms at the Hilton that overlook from the outfield. Incredible. You know, they had more reporters there than they had people watching the game. It's a fascinating situation, and Jess was telling me that they had to be careful not to swear, the players, at each other or the umpires, because it would echo through the building. Strange times that we have, no doubt. Plan A minus? Yeah, because you know there's no plan B. If you listen to Jim Skeffington of the Paw Sox, there's no plan B. He just wants to make this deal in Providence. This has popped up now over the last couple of days and gotten some attention. The headline reads here, Steve, if we can bring the headline up. Do you have, you know what, actually, that's my bad. I will call for the headline in a second. This is the stadium site that we are looking at, which is Plan A, right? That's 195 with the bridge over to the east side. Here's the headline that offers what I'm calling Plan A minus. Jewelry district site pitched by the owner. Yeah, so the property owners here have their pitchman, and there's no pitchman like Fisher, saying, hey, we're here.
Paw Sox and Red Sox owner Larry Lucchino made it clear that they are only looking to build on that site.
And we respect that. But if it doesn't pan out, we want the governor, the General Assembly leaders, and the new owners of the Paw Sox to know that we have 8 acres situated here in Providence with highway access that is highly suitable for a ballpark. And
Fisher says his plan would create a 10,000-seat multi-use ballpark and offer small business options similar to the I-195 site.
Yeah, the only thing that's missing with this site is the home runs into the river. I told you about this site a couple of months ago. You drive up 95 and you look to the right of the foot of the city. If you're coming 195 westbound to 95 north, it's right there. The Point Street exit, bang. You see all the dirt. And actually, from a cityscape point of view, the lights would be actually brighter for passersby than the internal city ballpark, whatever. These guys say there's no plan B. There might be a plan A minus if they can't make a deal with the state because this is private property. Of course, the key is they'd have to buy it. And they don't want to buy anything. But stay tuned. By the way, there's a plan B. Other New England cities are working hard to get into this deal. Know that, and I'll tell you about that more as we go. But speaking of the Paw Sox and just the concept of getting their act together, I don't think this should go unnoticed. So the 195 Redevelopment Commission meeting that was held on Monday, where it was the first public discussion from the Paw Sox to the state, and where the ask was presented formally. You know, it's kind of funny. It's like politics. I think I told you this before. I don't know when a candidate's formally running. I think it means balloons and caviar being served when they say I'm really, really running. You know, when's a formal declaration of intent to do business become formal? Anyway, I guess it happened Monday. But Larry Lucchino, the president of the Red Sox, came down to speak to the 195 Commission with Jim Skeffington, the president of the Paw Sox, and together they're the principals of the Paw Sox. You following that? And they were putting up boards, you know, architectural drawings and the like, and a lot of them said, reference facebook.com/baseballri. And Lucchino apologized for it. Listen.
I regret that the slides all say Baseball Rhode Island, because what we're talking about is more than baseball. Is its general use and utility for the city and the state and the fans and the public and the small business people and the job creators and the people who want to do things with this gigantic opportunity that's in your hands. So thank you for giving us a chance to say that.
Courtesy WPRO News, who mic'd up this 195 Commission meeting, but it's embarrassing. These big-time guys don't have their Marketing and Public Relations Act together, that they're putting up stuff for the first formal presentation that doesn't accurately represent what they're trying to accomplish. Just because you got a lot of money and just because you got a lot of success behind you doesn't mean that you can be sloppy in your next venture. So they're either being sloppy or they're so cocky that they've got this thing wired that it doesn't matter to them. Time will tell which is the case. And another note on the Paw Sox story, now we've got headlines like this that I don't think are such a great idea. For the Paw Sox situation, I know a lot of people want to know what is the purchase price of the team, what is the actual percentage of ownership and the like, and I think with a deal this public, those requests are legitimate. But Charlene Lima, the state rep who writes this piece of legislation, wants it to include anybody that's doing any business with the state that would require all individual partnerships, LLCs, or other entities seeking taxpayer dollars to waive all financial confidentiality. Who died and made her avail to my business underwear? This is the typical legislative reaction. You don't pay attention to anything, and then when you see something you don't like, you throw the baby out with the bathwater. Come on, Char. You're smarter than that. We'll try to get in here to talk about it. All righty, your state of mind is important to us. Telephone number to join us or leave us a message, 228-1886. Email me at stateofmind@myratv.com. Facebook post, text, tweet post, you know how that goes. Fred reacts to the governor coming here last night. You managed to flesh out several key areas of the governor's plans and intentions, and in the process succeeded in humanizing her. And more importantly, made me believe that maybe, just maybe, she can do what she says she can. What a great relief that would be for all of us withered and jaded Rhode Islanders. Actually, Tom Ward, our guest coming up, will talk about the withered and jaded Rhode Islanders, but I think Governor Raimondo does a good enough job herself of putting a human face on her humanness as governor. It was a good dialogue with the governor. And there's more to come. We did a bonus segment, which will air next week. I'll tell you about that later. All right, the publisher of the Valley Breeze, lots to say. Stay with us.
We need something, a share in the profits, some upside, something for the money we're going to put forward.
Here's what I need to know. Short answer. Are we this close, or that close with the Paw Sox?
With the present deal, not
This close.
happening.
I thought that was compelling. What was really compelling was a headline in the Valley Breeze the other day. Of course, it's a weekly, but online it publishes daily. Tom Ward, Paw Sox died with Mondor. It's time for us to move on. I actually bumped into Tom in town, and he told me about this tough column he was writing, and the next day I saw the headline and went, ooh, you weren't kidding. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you
As
again.
you well know, the Valley Breeze is an important staple part of my news gathering, and it's the best community newspaper I know in the region, and I say that all the time because it's true. You have a very significant editorial place in Rhode Island, if not all of northern Rhode Island, and so when you write something like that, wow.
Well, you're kind to say so. Sometimes I don't take myself that seriously, but in my case, this was just, my sense was people, and I said it later in the column, we have to accept the fact that we're not players anymore. You're a player when you have money to throw around, when you have some cash to throw around. We're in a ditch, and the first thing we should be doing is not digging anymore. And so and I'm glad to see the governor saying, this is not going to happen, because I think that became clear between the time I wrote the column and now, that whole $120 million, no property taxes, that's off the table. And I think there was enough of an eruption at that time, and that was good. So that's off the table, and that's good news. But clearly something's still bubbling under the surface, and that's what people are going to have to figure out.
But the gutsy thing to write that the Paw Sox died with Ben Mondor, what are you emoting there? Because that's an emotional thing to say.
Sure. What I was talking about was the Ben Mondor we all loved. Right. I mean, that curmudgeon, that guy from Woonsocket, I come from Woonsocket, that Mount St. Charles. I mean, the mill owner who sort of took this ball team with just a couple of bucks, really scrappy guy. We had this great 30-year run with this really colorful character. And he passed away, sadly, and now his wife has sold the team. And I think, business of baseball has changed a lot. And so I think that's what I was saying is that whole cutesy free parking, $2 for a popcorn, $1 for a soda, $8 for a seat, it's over. And that I feel very badly about, because I get to enjoy it with my kids. A lot of people did. A lot of Pawtucket residents who lived right nearby, they were there all the time.
So okay, someone need to say it, you did profoundly, and I don't think anybody can argue. But no one lives forever, and something was going to happen eventually. So, ... what's next? What should we expect?
Well, last time, Pawtucket, with the old crumbling McCoy Stadium, we liked Ben, we liked the Paw Sox. There was a threat to go to Worcester years ago. But last time, it was brought to the voters. They said, hey, people of Rhode Island, do you want to throw some money into the pot to fix up McCoy Stadium and keep them here? We were asked. We said yes. They fixed McCoy Stadium. It's a beautiful stadium, but it's 20 years later now. And so, it worked, and it was a great thing to do. But time marches on. The business of baseball has changed. The business of all sports is just dramatically different than 20 years ago. I'm just stunned when I hear, and I haven't seen the proof of it, but just comes out where they say, well, if we stay in McCoy, we have to put $60 million into the stadium. I'm like, really? I mean, really? I'm stunned to hear that. And so that might just be part of the baloney of saying we really, really don't want to be in Pawtucket. So people stop talking about it. I get that. That's their right.
But they even could have done that better. I mean, what I thought was fascinating, right, is they bought the team. It became public knowledge, and not 6 seconds later, literally on a weekend, they did the Dear John meeting with Mayor Grebian.
Yeah.
Broke his heart. He starts to emote on the radio Monday morning, and it starts to steamroll from there. They could have celebrated being the new owners and given it a couple of weeks, talked about the baseball schedule coming up and like talk baseball.
Right.
And they could have said, by the way, this place needs a redo.
Right.
And by the way,
and
it's
by the way, it's
65
not
mil.
us. It's not us. It's the international league
Right.
who's forcing this
And so
on us.
maybe we'll look for something else. And even if it was a little bit of manipulation, it's the kind of manipulation that would have been more sportsmanlike. It seems to me.
This is what you're talking about. It's marketing. It's
right.
PR. Look, contrast that with what just happened with John Taylor at Twin River. He knew he needed a complete sea change in the General Assembly to give him permission to put up a hotel. What's the first thing he does? He's not quiet about it. He goes to the town of Lincoln. He gets up there like a gentleman and says, we're going to be asking for a hotel. I just want you to know, and we understand this thing has to happen. So it erupts a little bit. I mean, some people are like, okay, and some people are upset. Then John and Twin Rivers step back. It goes to the General Assembly where it's quietly done, and they had a public hearing at the outset, by the way, back in the wintertime. And it comes back, and now it's just quietly passed the General Assembly. It's quietly signed by the governor, and Twin River moves towards its hotel. That is the definition of good marketing. That's how you do things. And
of course, the hotel with Twin River is something I knew was coming 10 years ago. You knew was coming 20 years ago. It was inevitable, and it seems reasonable. This thing is a bigger
sure,
Schultz,
this is different,
no
of
doubt.
course.
But you know, you could use his example as well. What he's doing in Tiverton right now. I know Arlene Violet made an editorial comment in the Valley Breeze. You can read Arlene every week in the Valley Breeze. She thinks it's another con job. My words. But still, he's still using the same kind of process, which is to warm people up a little bit, rather than this club over the head that this new Paw Sox ownership brought us.
Exactly.
So in the end, where do you think this is going to go?
Well, in the end, the cynic in me, and I know I spoke to another cynic, and I shouldn't say this because the cynic says that perhaps the deal is close to done already, and they're going to have to go through this posturing, and where the governor and other people say, eventually we spend $30 million, and it gets positioned as, hey, we saved you $90 million. Well, not quite, But there's still so many worrisome things about this, in my view. Whether it's 10, 20, 30, whatever the $1 million is. And the other thing I talked about in last week's column was just the raid we do on each other's business in this state. I mean, not only are we, first of all, plundering the Paw Sox from Pawtucket, bringing it to Providence, net gain 0, but now we're talking about, well, let's do concerts. Okay, do you know how many concerts venues there are now in the state of Rhode Island? You had the convention center, which plundered the Civic Center. So then we had to buy both. And then they all kind of plundered, or there was a decline at the Vets Memorial Auditorium. So now we buy that. And so now we're saying we're going to do concerts. Where is this level of concerts? Because now you've got Twin River doing concerts. You've got the Stadium Theater and Park Theater, who paid for themselves, by the way, and now do wonderful concerts. Beach Boys and
Well, I don't know
things
much
like
about the
that.
business, but there are tiers of kind of
there-
level to certain venues.
But
I
how
think
many tiers?
But I think your question as well is
I think we're going to wind up with the tiers.
Well, when we come back, there's a sentiment, though, that Tom brings to the table I think is important here. Stay with us. I only have a handful of minutes left with the Valley Breeze publisher, Tom Ward. You saw the speaker at the Chamber of Commerce meeting the other day. He said something you thought was interesting. What was it?
Yeah, I did. Well, the other thing they talk about at this stadium, the new Providence Stadium, is football. And they talk about, and I mentioned that in the column too, about Brown. Well, let's just take Brown and URI football and move them here. And they just seem to be trying so hard to fit so many square pegs in this round hole just to make the numbers work, which is not our problem, by the way. And so, but the speaker said something that I thought was really interesting. He said, well, Meade Stadium at URI football is going to need to be done anyway, and that's $30 million. And he said, and I was like, oh my God, Is that the card they're going to play? Oh, we don't rebuild Meade Stadium, and we'll save $30 million there, and that could go toward Providence. Now,
I have to tell you, that's completely news to me as a guy who swims in the URI waters. I'll be pursuing that one. I'm unaware of the $30 million.
It was a comment. He was not off the record, and it was.
But what you're saying, there's a lot of financial juxtapositioning to make whatever subsidy/program feel better.
Right.
Okay, interesting.
But my bigger
saying.
point is just that, does that make any sense at all? If the Paw Sox and Ben Mondo are still healthy today, and Meade Stadium needed to be redone, would anybody be saying, hey, let's bring that to Providence?
No, but I mean, that's kind of the way things evolve, right? They change. Give me a minute on Rhode Island sentiments. I mean, you could go on forever. But you really feel like we've been kicked to the curb and people are exhausted.
Yeah. Well, they are, and that's,
they're trying,
that's my
what did you
point.
say to me the other day? They're just trying to get to retirement.
They're just, as a lot of people my age, I'm 61, they're just, you just see it all the time. They're just like, dear Lord, just get me to my Social Security check, and they really are. They're down, and the governor has said this is not the way we're supposed to feel, and I feel badly that so many people feel that way, but it's been a long recession, and Rhode Island, was first into the recession, and we're going on nearly a decade. People are forgetting how long this has been going on, and people are tired. And then when you bring up some of the things, like I said, and that's why the Paw Sox is so tough, because when you bring up some of the examples of where the taxpayers of Rhode Island just get hurt again.
And I'll tell you, they'll harp on it without doing anything about it, though. 38 Studios, no one's calling for the right kind of enema cleansing. I talked to the governor about it. A self-policing, subpoena-filled investigation at the General Assembly. We still don't have it.
Nobody.
So we complain about being beat up, but we don't fight very hard, do we, either? Or do we just don't?
No. Well, as a matter of fact, I don't know how much time we have, but there was just something. Okay, there was something in this morning's paper about the new combined sewer outflow project finishing up another $800 million, and that's going to cost $800 million. Now, up to now, the ratepayers have been paying pretty high taxes, pretty high sewer rates to pay for this thing. Vinnie Messalella yesterday said he's talked to the governor's office and leaders in the General Assembly.
For the Narragansett Bay Commission.
For the Narragansett Bay, about state funding that could help defray the rates for cost payers. So here we go again. This is supposed to be paid for by ratepayers. Vinnie Messalella yesterday just offhandedly says, basically, hey, Rhode Island, stay tuned. I got a new plan to jolt you again. And that's like days behind the Paw Sox. And as I say, when are we going to stop digging holes?
Appreciate you coming.
Thanks.
Come back often. Obviously, we have to invite Mr. Messalella in as well. One more thing. I have a correction. It's an important one when we come back. Stay with us. So last night, in discussing some things with the governor, this went on. Nick Mattiello is hear no evil, see no evil. He's fighting Ethics Commission matters as a regular course. Do you know that, by the way, the Speaker of the House rents to the Cranston Fire Department?
No, I didn't
Owns a
know
piece of property in Cranston, which he has every right to do.
Right.
Rents to little businesses, and one of them is the Cranston Fire Department. It's not the fire department, it's the fire union. I said it 3 times, and I'm kicking myself. Here's the funny thing about it. It's worse that it's the union, because the unions are trying to create some incredible legislation here in the state that I'll tell you about next week at the latest, maybe tomorrow at the earliest. And the Speaker, who runs the whole show's got a fiduciary relationship with the union. Not good. Good night. See you tomorrow on the radio and back here. Bye.